single leg anterior reaches with a lower extremity driver. It's a good way for us to be able to continue our progress in loading up the foot and the ankle and the hip complex to take a look at stability and mobility. Having a certain destination point and a way of getting there. So if it's cone high or if it's ground high. I'll get out the goniometer occasionally as well, but objectively speaking, using centimeters, what I'll typically do, again, I've got my functional grid out. I'll show you what I'll do with that first, and then I'll compare it to what I do with this little tape measure right here. So we still have our blue tape measure that's all the way down. Our big toe is right behind that point right here. And almost typically, depending on, so two different strategies I can take. I'll usually go like a toe touch, and I'll measure where that or the left toe in this case reaches and touches down. The individual has to stand all the way back up without being able to touch down. With these, we can do one repetition, or we can go several repetitions of these, or we can do it for time. So with the big toe behind our point right here, as that is a reference point with our other big toe, our free big toe, those are my reference points with regards to all of my measurements. So we can also, with these, to take out maybe the butt and the hip, we can go with an overhead reach or a reach down maybe that's knee high. So just reference that knee or waist high reach and ground high reach. So we have an anterior reach. So our reference point is always our base foot with regards to where we're kind of touching and stuff like that. So we have an anterior reach. We have an anterior medial kind of reach, so 45-degree angle to the left. We have a medial reach right here. So we're going straight 90 degrees to the left, and it's a nice little toe touchdown. Or we have a cone, so we're going with a toe touch so I was at 82 centimeters there and then we'd measure the height right there, which is maybe 2 or 3 inches up high, with a knee or a waist high reach. We also have this posterior medial reach right here. And we also have an anterior lateral reach, and that can be done in a couple different kind of ways right here. Most typically, I'll add a little rotation and touch right there, and then we have a little lateral reach. So I'm looking at dorsiflexion and eversion, dorsiflexion and eversion, both anterior and anterior lateral. I'll get more of a frontal plane bias, more eversion of that subtalar joint when I go medial. And then posterior medial, I'm getting dorsiflexion and eversion of the subtalar joint. I'm also then going after taking a look at the mid-tarsal joint, the abduction, the dorsiflexion, and the relative inversion that I'll be getting, which is consistent in TZ1 of gait. And then with my anterior lateral, it's consistent with TZ2 of gait, so the syncing up of dorsiflexion, inversion then of the subtalar joint, dorsiflexion, adduction, and relative eversion of the mid-tarsal joint. And then my frontal plane bias here, that will go after the inversion and the dorsiflexion, and also the same specifics with the mid-tarsal joint. And also with some of these, a good way to load up the hip, looking at here some external rotation, also some internal rotation, and then some adduction. So for you, to cut to the chase, so you have one little tape measure, which is awesome. For $1.50 at a sewing shop, you have a little tape measure. Big toe is the reference point, reach and touch. You're then going to turn on a 45-degree angle. So you're going anterior medial. You're then going to go medial with it. And then you're going posterior medial with your big toe again, right up kind of in front of that tape measure. You're then going to go anterior lateral. So my reference point is always forward in relation to where the tape measure is. And then if I want to go straight lateral, again, the tape measure runs through and under my little toes right up against the outside of the big toe. And there is our reference point. And so we're always using, I always use the big toe as a reference point, or you can use the heel as well. Just be specific with that, but a great way to look at lower extremity stability and mobility, objectively speaking.